You've probably heard of the famous Nigerian print scam. During the 90s, a sloppily written email started popping up in Yahoo Mail accounts. The email promised, in broken English, a huge sum of money to anyone who would help a prince out of a bind for a relatively tiny amount of cash. Of course, upon trying to help, you'd find yourself tied up in a string of emails requesting more and more money without any return in sight. This wasn't a new scam, by the way. Versions of the Nigerian print scam have been floating around for at least a few centuries, running on regular mail, but email was the perfect environment for a very successful mutation. Email gave access to a lot more people with much lower costs, and the internet was new and exciting enough that it seemed like anything was possible. That excitement lured people in. But, it's not the 90s anymore. Most email services come with features now to throw out garbage like that, and you and I both know about fake emails and fake websites, even a little bit about scarier things like link swaps. Security is better, people are more aware. That was the Wild West. Things are different now. Computer technology has had an explosive couple of years. AI and cryptocurrency are not new ideas by any stretch, but recent breakthroughs, both technological and cultural, have absolutely accelerated their development and adoption. Take the big one as an example, large language models. This is an incredibly powerful text generation technology. It can spit out pretty much whatever you ask for it with way more clarity than was possible just a few years ago. You can even get it to generate answers to questions you have, and sometimes it gets it right. But there's no reason for ChatGPT to be a safe contained tool. There's no inherent requirement for safe output or even true output. It just gives you words. Those words can be whatever you want. The consequences of this? Well, compared with late 2022, there has been a 12,000% increase in phishing attacks. So, yes, things are different now, but that different doesn't need to mean improved or more secure. It mostly just means new. But things were new back in the 90s. So, what do we do? Well, hopefully one day security tech will get to the point where we don't have to worry so much, where we don't have to watch a video and wonder if the person we're seeing is real. But right now, we're interacting with new, unsecured technology largely whether we want to or not. So the only thing we can really do is learn about this new tech, how it's supposed to be used, how it's being misused, and how to catch the fraud before becoming a victim to it. We have to go on the defensive. ChatGPT. Claude Llama? These text-generating tools have been described as a fancy version of the word prediction thing that most phones have. They basically consume a massive amount of training text to build a statistical model that can guess what's most likely to follow any text you give it. Now, there's a bunch of complexity behind that functionality and a bunch of extra controls that have to be used before you get a properly usable LLM, but yeah, that's pretty much it. ChatGPT doesn't know the difference between writing an essay and answering a question. It just knows that when someone asks a particular question, it's usually followed by a particular answer. Now, this is a tool with an incredible amount of potential. It can generate code, summarize massive amounts of data, and ease the burden of mind-numbing data entry jobs. It might even have applications for answering questions and finding information, acting as an easier-to-use version of a search engine. However, there's a problem in quality. As I mentioned before, all this thing does is make up text based on what's most likely to come next. There's no requirement for truth. In addition, its ability to produce good text that's stylistic, natural, or enjoyable to read is, let's say, an area for growth. So, say you wanted ChatGPT to write a news article. The text might struggle to stick to the facts and probably won't contain the same subtlety and craft as a professional writer. If the LLM winds up producing garbage, it could hurt the reputation of the news source. At the very least, someone would probably want to monitor the output. But remember, the Nigerian prince email was never well written. If you're sending millions of spam emails, you're kinda just relying on people making mistakes. Truth and quality don't matter, and the consequences for the LLM spitting out an unreadable mess is practically non-existent. As the quality of an LLM increases, one of the first, if not the first, practical application is fraud and spam, way before it could ever be reliably used elsewhere. But remember, ChatGPT is really good at its job. The text it produces isn't perfect, but it's shockingly good. Plenty of places are actually trying to use it to write news articles. But that means AI-generated fraud is already beyond the point of waiting for mistakes. It is actively trying to trick you. Luckily, AI-generated fraud emails are still emails. They're still restricted by all the same things as any other normal email, so the normal tricks for dodging phishing emails and things like the Nigerian prince scams still apply. First of all, look out for the telltale signs of a con. An email that you aren't expecting, that contains a message of urgency, like only having a limited time to respond, and high returns, like the Nigerian prince scam itself. Then, pay attention to ways a fraudulent email might try to get you. Don't click on attachments unless you know what the attachment is and are expecting it. Don't click links in emails. Just go to the website the link is supposed to be linking to. Like, take this as an example. If you get an email asking you to do something about a fraudulent charge, don't use the link in the email. Go to the website directly. If the email was real, you can deal with the fraudulent charge as normal. If the email isn't real, there will be no fraudulent charge and you've just dodged a fake email. Thankfully, all AI does in this case is make emails a little bit more convincing. Knowing what AI is capable of and approaching emails with a little bit of skepticism and caution is really all that you need to keep yourself safe. Emails, though, aren't the only problem with AI. If large language models are a high-powered version of predictive text on your phone, deepfakes are a high-powered version of a face swap app. Well, to be fair, deepfake isn't really a specific term. Sometimes it means using AI to put one person's face on another person's body while matching their expressions, lip movement, and lighting in a way that would be nearly impossible to do manually. But on the other hand, sometimes it's used more broadly to refer to any artificial video meant to deceive, AI or not. Here I'll be talking mostly about that first one, using AI to alter the face and voice of a person in a video. And yes, to be clear, that means that a video of someone talking could be entirely faked, from the location in the background to the words they're saying to the movement of their lips. Now, compared with large language models, deepfakes are already a more dubious tool. Even their legitimate uses feel kinda iffy. Like, they could be used by Hollywood to change the appearance of an actor, but that already starts getting into some strange territory about likeness, especially if the actor is deceased. Otherwise, you can use it for a joke, and that's about it. On the more nefarious side is, of course, fraud, but it stands alongside some extremely dangerous forms of misinformation and some extremely vile forms of harassment. For your comfort and mine, I will not be talking about them. The legitimate applications of this technology are scarce, but the applications to theft are immediately obvious. Now, video has never really been the perfect tool for evidence. Just by the nature of not being there to ask for clarification, it's possible for a misleading video to capture someone misspeaking or to cleverly edit the video to make it appear as if they're subtly implying something that was never intended. But this technology is a whole new problem. A live video feed can be created of a fake person flatly stating untrue things and gladly clarifying with even more lies. As a brief high-profile example, a Hong Kong finance worker was duped into transferring $25 million by a deepfake video call with his company's CFO. I could tell you about the current leading methods for spotting deepfakes. like to watch out for erratic head movements, the warping of a person's glasses, or the position of a freckle on their face, the darker eyes and fuller lips. But the problem here is that these deficiencies in current deepfakes might not exist for future deepfakes. Instead, I think it's better to focus on the content of a false video. Many of the things I mentioned when talking about emails still apply here. Watch out for urgency or strange requests with high rewards. Approach important videos or calls with caution and skepticism. If something feels off, just make sure to double check. It's important to remember that all these signs are a great reason to be suspicious, but not to throw out a video entirely. Double check and think things through, but assuming every video is false isn't really better than the alternative. There is one last thing I want to talk about. It isn't as related, but with Bitcoin prices rapidly approaching $100,000, I feel like I have to briefly mention that a huge portion of internet fraud is financial fraud, and the vast majority of that is through cryptocurrency. Crypto is an interesting piece of technology. It was originally conceived as a peer-to-peer, decentralized, fully digital currency. There would be no central bank or broker or authorities. The goal of this tech is to effectively introduce cash and anonymous trade to online purchases. Now, present-day crypto is not used as a cash, is largely centralized, and is full to overflowing with banks, exchanges, and brokers, but the original goal of crypto still informs the way it works. The important part for us, crypto transactions are mostly anonymous and entirely irreversible. If someone is able to trick you out of your coins, there is no real way to get them back and no immediate way to find the criminal. The main type of fraud you want to watch out for is high-yield investment programs, where someone promises for any Bitcoin you invest in their program, they can give a 1% daily return or something equally insane. Any money given to them will vanish forever. Victims to this kind of scam may find themselves tied up in another, crypto recovery services. Basically, someone will claim that they can recover your stolen coins, but the cost of their service is, of course, a small payment in crypto. They will also never be heard from again. So as a quick summary, crypto is highly volatile and very susceptible to price manipulation. It's a hotbed for fraud that is very difficult to impossible to reverse. The market is in such a wild state that it's nearly impossible to parse those trying to be legitimate from the others, and to be honest, I'm not sure anyone's trying to be legitimate, so amidst the skyrocketing value of Bitcoin, I urge you to be cautious. Computer technology has had an explosive couple of years, but in the rush to disrupt the economy and fabricate new industries out of sheer will, one of the biggest areas of growth became the market of fraud. Every AI tool and decentralized currency brings with it new narratives and excitement. We already know how this goes. We're rebuilding the palace of our favorite prince.